The surprise win in the elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo is being disputed. Martin Fayulu, widely tipped to replace Joseph Kabila, has appealed to the country's constitutional court to cancel the provisional results. He's accused Tshisekedi of making a deal with Kabila, who's stepping down after 18 years in power. Africa political analyst Edward Mitole joins us now to discuss this further. Afternoon to you, Edward. Do you think Martin Fayulu has put forward a strong enough case to be able to compel the court to overturn that election result?
It's divide and rule. Martin Fayulu is part of the same regime of capture, of resource extraction and exploitation in the DRC. You must remember that Joseph Kabila was brought to power by forces that did not want his father to continue ruling in the Congo. So that regime is being propped up by the CIA in America. Felix Tshisekedi has struck a deal with the incumbent Joseph Kabila to serve the same regime that has been responsible for the exploitation and dismembering and destitution of the people of the DRC. Martin Fayulu is being backed up by the Roman Catholic Church and the European Union. He is no better than Felix Tshisekedi. He's going to continue the same regime of capture, of resource extraction and exploitation, of child labor, of destitution. So, I can say that he's justified. But then, to whose benefit is that neoliberal democracy that is being promoted there? If the underlying causes of the crisis in the DRC haven't been solved, we can have post-election political solutions that able out the voting citizens. But to whose interest is that? It is to the interest of the same multinational corporations that have continued looting, using child labor to bring out these resources from the belly of the earth for the benefit of multinational companies. The average South African, the average Congolese, spends his entire life working for industry in order to buy a cell phone that enables him to stay on WhatsApp and Facebook. The same cell phone whose raw materials are brought out from the belly of the earth of the DRC.
But Edward Mitole, back to my question then. You are painting a rather grim picture of all the candidates in this election because, I mean, Martin Fayulu, you are saying, has assistance from the Catholic Church and the West because we've heard Belgium and France come out to say they believe he won. You believe that Felix Tshisekedi is also not going to do any better than the Kabila regime. We've got Emmanuel Shadari on the other end, who was seen as a candidate handpicked by Joseph Kabila. But I want to come back to this question. Was the election stolen from Martin Fayulu?
The election was stolen, no doubt about that, because all the opinion polls in the run-up to the election itself, beginning from October 2016, were putting Moise Katumbi ahead of all the other candidates. And Moise Katumbi is a giant. Jean-Pierre Bemba is a giant in the DRC. Both of these candidates were banned from the contesting. They then ended up backing Martin Fayulu, who is a former ExxonMobil executive. ExxonMobil. What is the history behind ExxonMobil in the DRC? It's a history of looting and plunder. He is continuing, and he has been put there by global capital to continue the same regime. There might be forces that are fighting, but this is another Cold War, where Western nations are fighting for this magnificent cake, which is the DRC. Martin Fayulu will not be any better than Shadari or Joseph Kabila or Desiree Mobutu, who plundered the DRC with the assistance of the CIA for so many decades.
But if all candidates, Edward, in the DRC, all the political leaders, at least the mainstream ones, are so badly flawed, who then is going to bring the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo out of the political, the economic crisis? Who then is going to help Congolese people who are living in countries like South Africa create conditions back home where they are able to take back their skills and wealth back to their country of birth?
80% of our national government's resources every African country is paying 80% of its national government resources in debt service to the IMF and World Bank. That's the Neoliberal International that was founded by two men in 1938 in Paris, Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich Hayek, both exiles from Austria. They coined the term neoliberalism, which came to define a new world where states in the South become empty shells, where states are reduced to mere labor controllers and migration controllers, where the private sector takes over the running of affairs in African countries, where our leaders fly using taxpayers' money to access private medical health care, where the population is left to scramble for the poor health services in their own countries, where child soldiers are hired from Sudan to fight a war in Yemen they don't know anything about, where 70% of our children leave Africa on a perilous journey to the EU countries looking for greener pasture, 70% of whom never make the journey.
But
they die in the desert or on the sea.
DRC, yes. What is the hope then for the people of the DRC? What becomes of the Democratic Republic of Congo now?
Kwame Nkrumah warned us, Africa must unite or perish. Without genuine African unity, our people will forever perish. Africa needs solidarity. South Africans are no better than the people of the DRC. We are being subjected to the same torture, humiliation, rape, degradation, just like the people of the DRC. You are on a minimum wage. You can't demand a decent living wage. We are no better. We spent our entire lives working for industry to pay off debts in bonds and car loans and other services. You don't have disposable income. You cannot think yourself as better than the people of the DRC. Africa needs solidarity. We need to go to the DRC, drive out the Belgian colonialists, drive out the French. They looted the Congo for so many decades. The people of the DRC need solidarity. Scrape out the colonial borders. Africa is one nation. What we need is a common market, a common currency, a common parliament, a common military high command, which will make Africa a global force on the international scene. As we are balkanized. Okay. We cannot compete with the global powers on the international market, on the global stage. We do not have any bargaining power. We are not represented on the UN Security Council. Africa, unite now or perish.
Okay. Let's leave it there. Edward Mitole, thank you so much for your time. Edward is an Africa analyst speaking to us about the latest developments in the DRC. Coming up next is Week in One, but first let's check in with the Weather Center.